Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I want to work on a small project for my GameStart repo. So basically GameStart is a very simple backend API service. You can query for games and add games. It must be noted that this is a very simple service for educational purposes. So there is no database attached or deployed for production use. It is just a simple API service. Okay, so let's have a look. In this project we have a couple of folders and other files. So let us start with the starter files. So basically the starter files holds um, some files we will need for this project. So in here we can see data. Inside data we have games, we have reviews. So the games is an array of game objects. So we can see ID, name, platform, and then rating. That's the structure. And then we can see a couple of games in here. God of War, Prototype, what's and so on. And then we have reviews. In this project, we are not going to make use of the reviews because I want to keep it very simple and short. So we are only going to make use of the games. And then we also have some files. Most of them are AI generated. In fact, they're all AI generated. So we have like dragonkin.jpg, elflord, and then whatever. The other thing we also have here is a helper functions.js. So basically these are some functions I'll be using in a tutorial just to explain a couple of things. So I just wrote them and then I'll just be making references to them. And then let's look at the other file. We have a file called server.js. So this is where we make use of Express. We create an app instance and then we define our route. So we have API/v1/games and then the games route. Now, if you are confused about whatever is going on here, I already have a tutorial on this, where we build out this API, so you can have a look at that. But if you understand everything that is going on here, no problem, you can just continue. So we have the games route. Inside the games route, we are requiring route/games route. So let's just enter into our routes folder. In the routes folder, we have where we are defining all the routes for games. So we have the one for a specific ID and then the one for generic. So if we've defined post, we've defined get, and then delete and then patch. Okay, and then for each route path, we have a controller. So we have the game controller. So that will take us to the controllers. Now, if we enter inside the controllers, games controller.js, we can see games over here. This one, I'm going to just change it because we already defined it inside data. Here, data.js. So we can just remove it. We can remove the whole of this, and then we require it. Okay, so I can just remove this. We'll require that one later. So we have the get game function. So this is going to return every game, okay, from games, and then this one is going to return a particular game, and then this is going to return all the games, and then creates game, updates game. So basically, this is just the logic that we need to run our app, and obviously, Node modules contains all our Node modules. Let me quickly this. So let's just call it data, and then we'll say require. Then we specify the path. So starter files, yeah, slash data. So we've got our hands on data. We can say const games equals data dot games. That's it. Now the project I want to do today involves adding a feature to the repo that will allow clients to add images to the game's resources. That is the end goal. If you are coding along or following, we will add a feature to support uploading images, processing the image, and finally storing the image. In the processing phase, we will do two things. We will reduce the image size and create a thumbnail from the uploaded image. Here on our drawing board, I just want to show a high-level design of what we are going for. So we have our client. Our client is going to make a request to our server. This request is going to be of the type multi-part. So it is going to be a multi-part request. When the image is uploaded, together with whatever field to be specified on the form, our server is going to pick the file that was uploaded, use the CPU and then the memory to process the file based on whatever processing we want to happen. And then after that, we save it on storage. Now, when we look at this design, we get to see that we are just storing everything on storage. So we are not uploading this to any cloud service or any third-party storage solution. So you can think of this as some kind of VPS. So that is, you can think of it like you are building this solution using something like an EC2 instance, or maybe a VPS you've purchased from a provider like Linode or maybe DigitalOcean, right? I'll do another tutorial where I'm going to demonstrate how to do this thing, but this time instead of storing the image, the processed image on the storage that comes with a VPC, we are going to upload the image to an S3 bucket. Okay, let's get back to the code. Back to the code. I just want to add a middleware. I'm going to call that middleware playground, and then we'll be using that one to do testing. So basically, we'll be testing the logic we'll be writing to upload and then process the images before we are going to add them to any of the middlewares that involves the game. Okay, so for example, create game. So let's create that middleware quickly. Let's export, and then we'll call that one playground. Then async request response next, and then we can just reuse this. But instead of returning game here, we don't want to return anything. So we have defined our middleware called playground. Now we have to add it to the routes. So we can just reuse this. Now the path is going to be playground. And then, yeah, we can keep it as a post request. Then we change create game to playground. So this is going to define the playground route and then add the playground middleware to this route. Let us open Postman and then test this. But before we do that, we just have to do node server.js. Perfect. All right, we are in Postman. We are going to do some testing. Basically, we are just testing the endpoints, so we can do get all games. So if we go to games folder and then we click on get all games and then we send this request, we can see here that we are getting all the games that we have, right? God of War, prototype, whatever. And then we can, what I want to do, we can actually test for the rest and then everything should work. Okay, but I'm not interested in that right now. So for example, and then if we do an ID of 1, easy, we get a game of ID of 1, which is God of War. If we change the ID to 2, we get prototype, right? So these are the endpoints that I created when I was working on the GameStart endpoint, GameStart service. But over here, we want to add a feature. So, and then we're also interested in the playground endpoint. So what I want to do is add a folder called playground. And then in here, I'm just going to add a new request. I'll call that one, let's say post playground. And we can do that / playground. Now, if we send this request, it's going to be a post request. If we send this request, we are supposed to get a response of status success, right? Because that's what we defined in our project. So if we send this, that's it. That's what we got. Okay, that means we've registered that endpoint correctly. Now let's get back to the code and then start doing something interesting. At this point, I'm sure I've done a fair introduction of what the feature is. Now let's build it. We start by downloading some packages we use. We need multer and sharp. Multer is an efficient middleware for handling multi-part or form data type of request. So that's what we use to handle the file upload. Now we're also going to use SharpJS. So Sharp is a high speed and efficient package for processing images in Node. So we are talking about resizing, conversion, etc. Now, let us install these two packages. To do that, we can just do npm I. We say sharp, and then we also say multer. So this command should download the two packages for us. Okay, let's have a look. Now, if we go to package.json, we can see we have sharp, and then we can also see we have multer in here. Now let's go to our controllers and then require multer. So we can say const multer, and then we do require, and then we say multer. Now multer deals with something called storage engines. So we have to define our storage engine. To do that, we can just do const storage engine. Okay, storage engine, and then we say multer dot, and then we can say disk storage. I want to make something clear. So there are three types of storage engine. We have the disk storage, there is the memory storage, and then there's the custom storage engine. The disk storage is for storing files on your machine locally. So we're talking about your disks, maybe the SSD or hard disk or whatever it is, right? So this can also be the storage for your VPC. I'm sorry, for your VPS, okay? And then there is also the memory storage. So this one we are talking about RAM. When the file is uploaded, everything is stored in RAM, and then it is represented as buffer. Okay, buffer objects. So that is the memory storage, and then we have the custom storage. The custom storage is your defined storage engine. So let's just look at it. Let's just take the disk storage as an example. So if we have a look at this disk storage, it has a couple of options here. So if we check the options, we have file name. So that's the name you want to give to the file that has been uploaded. And then we also have the destination. So we are talking about the path where you want to store the file. In our case, we want to make use of the memory storage engine. So we can just say memory storage. So this is going to create a storage engine for us. Now the other thing we have to do is to create our middleware. So we can call that one const upload. And then in order to do that, we just say multer, we call multer. And then as an option, we pass storage. And then we specify our storage engine. So by doing this, multer will create a middleware for us, which we can assign to the upload variable here. Now there's another thing I wanted to show you. That is what we call the file filter option. So basically this one allows you to filter files, okay, because you have access to the request, you have access to file, and then you have access to a callback. Now let us go to the starter files. In here, the helper functions. I've got a filter function here. So assuming we are interested in filtering the file that the user uploads, we can then do this. So we pass this. Now, if you look at the structure of file filter, it is just a callback. Okay, it's a callback function. So it exposes the request, the file that the user uploads, and then a callback function. Now, if you want to reject a file, okay, you just pass false, and then if you want to accept the file, you pass true. You get it? So for example, you can say if file dot and then let's say MIME type, right? If it is not equal to let's say image, if it is not equal to image, then you want to reject it. So you can do this. So the moment you do this, it is going to fail, okay, because the file that the user is uploading is not of type image. So this is what is going to happen. You just fail it. You just fail the request. Now the now that you see over here is just your error, the error that you want to pass. Okay, so whatever error you want to pass, you just pass the error to it. So you can see here we have CB and then we have new error. So in this case, we are passing an error called I don't have a clue. In our case, if we want to tell the user that the image that they sent is not, or the file type that they sent is not acceptable, we can say file not acceptable. So on a high level, we've seen how to handle or filter files, okay, based on the MIME type. In this case, we had access to files, so you'll be able to get a MIME type and then do your comparison. If you want to reject, you use false. If you want to accept, you use true. And then the first parameter is the error. In this case, we created a new error and then we said file not acceptable. But the right way to do it is to use this function. So we can just copy this function and then I'll just explain. It's basically what we've done, but a more correct approach. Okay, so let's just get rid of this. Okay, so request. So the things that we have access to, we have access to request, we have access to file, and then cd, which is callback. And then we are saying that if file.mime type starts with image, then we want to allow, okay, because we are passing null for error, and then we are passing true. So we want to proceed. However, if that is not the case, then we want to send a new error saying that not an image, please upload only images. Okay, then we pass false. So this is going to reject whatever the user wants to upload. If it is not an image, then it's going to reject it. So basically, we are doing validation here. Okay, in our case, I don't really need that. But yeah, I'll just keep it. I'll just keep it. Yeah. So now that we have a upload, okay, what I want to do is to wrap this middleware in another middleware. You don't necessarily have to do it, but I prefer it that way. And then I'm going to export it. So I'll just call it upload image. And then I'm going to assign it to, sorry, I'm going to map it to upload. In this case, I'll do single. I'm going to explain what is happening here. So the upload middleware has a couple of functions. So the single is to upload, is to pick a particular file, just one file based on the path, the name of the path on the multipath request, or the field on the multipath request. So we can call this, let's say, profile photo. So in the form request or the multipath request, if you have a field called profile photo and you want to pick the image from that particular field, this is how you go about it. Okay. In some cases, you may have multiple fields that have images. So in order to do that, you can use fields. Now this one takes an array, okay, of field objects. So you can have something like name. So that's the name of the field, right? You can call it profile photo, and then max count. Max count. So that's the maximum number of images or files you want for that particular field. So these are all validations, right? So the name of the field and then the max count. So let's say the user can only upload 2 images for that particular field. So let's say the profile photo field. If the user uploads more than 2, it is going to fail. If the user uploads 1, it is okay. So that is profile photo. Remember, it is an array, so we can have another field, but it has to be an object here. So that one, we can also have name. You can call it, let's say, gallery, yeah. And then you can also do max count for gallery. You can do max count for that one, let's say 10. So you're defining the fields basically. So each field and then the max count. Okay, then we have any. So you can also have the any function. This one is for any type of whatever field, whatever file, like you just don't care, right? Anything. So that is where you use this. So it returns a middleware that processes all files contained in the multi-path request. So we've seen single, we've seen any, we've seen array. Okay, so this is array. So you can also read more about it here. So it returns a middleware that processes multiple files sharing the same field name. Okay, so this one you have a particular field name. So if you look at the structure here, the first one is the field name, then the rest is max count. In our case, like I said, we're only interested in single. So let's just call that one profile photo. Now that we have this middleware here, we can add it to our request. So we can simply come to routes, and then in here we can do game controller dot upload image. Okay. Now to give you the details about the images, okay, for example, if you want to see the details about the images, what I can do is I can say log and then request dot file, right? So this is going to give us the file that the details about the file that the user uploaded. So we are going to log that in the console for us to see. Let us run node server. Okay, it is running on port 3000. Now let us go to Postman. So we are here in Postman, and then we want to make a request to our server. In order to make a request, we need to specify the image inside the body of the request. In this case, we just go to body, and then you can see here we have the type of request we want to make, GraphQL or binary raw, and so on. So we choose form data, and then for the key, that is the name of the field. We can say profile photo. You can add multiple fields, okay, to the multi-path request. In our case, because we are just testing, we want to test Malta, we just have to specify the name of the path, the single path, right? So that is profile photo. The type, we change it to file instead of text, and then we select a file. This time we choose new file from local machine, and then we can choose, let's say, dragonkin file, and then we select that one. Now we have the field, we have the file here with a size. We can now send this request to the server. We got a status of success. Let us go to let's go to VS Code to check what we have in our logs, what we have in our terminal. Here in VS Code, we can see that we have logged some details from the file that we uploaded. So the field name was profile photo. The original file name was dragonking.jpg, and then the encoding MIME type buffer. So buffer means that is how the file is represented in memory, right? Buffer object. So we have that one over here, and then the size of the file. Now, if you check before the validation that we did, we are saying that if the MIME type starts with image, okay, so it passes. So it is not going to fail. However, if you uploaded something else like a PDF, it is going to fail. So that one you can try it on your own. Now, I want us to consider if we have multiple fields with images. So in that case, I'm going to create another middleware. So let's have that one here. I'm going to call it upload images. And then instead of using single, I'm going to use fields. Then we are going to define the fields. So we remember this is an array. So we pass that, and then we have our objects. So the name, the first field, we can call it profile photo. We will not specify max size. So if max size is not specified, then it's going to be infinite. And then we are going to pass another object for the next field. Let's call that one gallery. Yep, we are not going to provide max size for that. Now, if we are doing multiple file processing for the multi-path form, instead of file here, we are going to do files. Yes, we're going to do files. So if we log files, we should be able to see all the fields that have images in here on the console. So we are going to go to the games route, and then instead of using upload image, we are going to do, let us go ahead and test in Postman now. So we just have to restart the service. Now here in Postman, we are going to add another field. We call that one gallery, and then we are going to change it to file. In here for files, let us add, let's say 3 images from here, and then send this request to the server. Now let's get back to VS Code and check the console. Now here in the console, we can see something interesting, right? We can see lots of files in here, and then we can also see an object containing these files. So we can, for example, we can see gallery here. So, and then we can also see profile photo. That means if we enter into playground and then we do files dot gallery, right, that should give us all the files inside the gallery files. And then if we change that one to profile photo, we should get all the files in profile photo. So it's as simple as that. So we can say gallery dot length. So because it is an array, we should be able to get the length of gallery, right? So let us save this, restart the service, and then make the request in Postman and then check. Okay, so I just made a request in Postman. You can see that it is 3. If we change the gallery to profile photo, and then run this again, I'm going to make the request again. This time we got 1. That means there's only 1 file for profile photo, and then there are 3 files for gallery, just like how we did it in Postman. So we've seen how to use multer. So what I'm going to do now is to create the middleware that is responsible for processing the images. So we are talking about resizing, maybe reducing the quality, and then adding, or let's say creating a thumbnail out of the image that the user provides us from the request. So I'm just quickly going to write that one out and then explain, since it is quite straightforward compared to multer. Okay, so I'm done writing it out. So basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a middleware, okay, that we are going to add to the games route. So basically after we do upload image or upload images, then the next middleware that will go through is the process images. So games controller dot process images. Yeah. So I'm going for a structure like this. So we first call the middleware to upload the images. The next thing is to get a middleware to process the images. Okay. Now let's just have a look at the code. So in here we have a middleware called process images. Now for process images, what we are doing is we first create the name for the file. Okay. So we want it to have a unique name. That is why I'm using the date.now so that we can get a unique name for it. And then we are adding it to this using string interpolation, right? And then after we have the file name, then we specify the path. So we're going to keep it in a folder called images, right? That's where we're going to save the file. And then we now call sharp. Now when you look at the top, I have imported sharp. So sharp is the library or package that we're going to use to do this. So we do await and then sharp. Now what we are passing to sharp is the file.buffer. You know, I discussed the file. So the file is the name of the file, the image, okay? So for example, if we are using upload image. Remember, not upload images, but upload image. What we have is we are doing single, so we can find that image on request.file. Okay, and then we are using buffer. That is the object that contains the file in memory. So we have our buffer, we are passing it to sharp. Now, if we get our hands on the file from memory, then we do a rotate. Now, this rotate is not compulsory. I do it because I've noticed that sometimes after images come to any server that I've worked on, I'm talking about production servers, sometimes the orientation is off. So when you call the rotate function, what it does is it tries to rotate the image correctly based on the dimensions that based on the dimensions that are on the image, like the image itself. So that is why I'm using rotate over here, and then I do a resize. So this is to give it a consistent size, 1080 by 1080, and then I do JPEG. So basically we are converting it to JPEG, and then the quality, we keep a quality of 90, so we just reduce the quality a bit, and then we do to file. Now we put it inside. We now convert it to a file. So remember that this one is memory, so we don't have it locally. Now this is the path that we store it locally. Now look at the path we are sending the file to. We are sending to public / file path. Okay, so we have to check our project. We don't have any folder called public. Therefore, if we attempt this, it is going to fail. So we'll create a folder called public here. Not only that, remember, look at the path. So we have a slash. So after the slash, images follow, right? Because we are using this variable. So images follow. So I'm just going to add a folder called images. Okay, so if we have this now, so public images, cool. Now, after we've done all of that, right, we want to put a file name on the request body. Okay, so I am doing it this way so that in a real world application, right, usually after you save the file on storage or in a cloud on a cloud storage, you try to put the location of the file, whether the URL or the path of the file, on the object. So in this case, the game object. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm doing request.body.image, and then I'll put the file name over there. I even think maybe file path will be the best option, but yeah, let's just use file path. That'll do. So file path here, so that at least we have enough to do it right. Because I'll tell you the reason why I did not add a public to the file path. So let's go to server.js. Now in here we have to expose the folder that we want, that the folder where we have the images. So in order to do that, when I say expose, I actually mean we have to serve that folder. Okay, so that we can get it. We can get it via an API endpoint, right? So we can do app.use, and then remember it's just like an endpoint, right? So we can do /uploads, and then we pass our middleware. So this one is going to be express.static, and then the folder we want to serve, so it is the public folder. Okay, so public, basically this folder, we are serving the files in this folder. Okay, seems like everything is looking good. Now that we have that one sorted, what I want to do is I just want to put the newly created middlewares, right? The ones that we've tested on the games route. So for example, if we want to create a game, so I can do that here. So if we want to create a game, if we are hitting this endpoint to create a game, the first thing we do is we take the image. The next thing we do is to process the image. Then we go ahead to create a game. Now, in creating the game, this is how I define the game. So basically, I have a game object, and then I populate it with the details that I get from the request body. Okay. Over here, we don't have image, so I'm going to add image. And then remember that we have added a field called image from the process image middleware. So if we do request the body dot image, that should exist. Sometimes it may not exist. That is, if the user does not send an image, then that field will not exist. Okay. So we can even add a check here. So we can say if request dot file, right, is null. Okay. So if request dot file is null, we can do return next. Okay, so if request dot file exists, right, so that will make it true. Then we note it, then it becomes false. Then we execute this part. However, if request dot file is, for example, say undefined, okay, that is false. If we not false, we get true. So we skip this whole processing branch basically. So I think I'm not confident in the code right now, but I think we can test it. So let's do node server. Okay, let's check in Postman. Okay, here in Postman, we first have to go to create game because we want to create a game. Before, the API was such that the request was a JSON request, right? But in this case, we are using multipath because we want to add an image to the request. So we choose form slash multipath. So that's form data. And then remember that the name of the field where we keep the image is called profile photo. That is not a good name. We can call it maybe image or cover image, but I used profile photo in code, so we'll definitely change that. But for now, let's just keep it. Let's just keep it as is, and then we're going to choose an image. So let's say Melo, and then the game needs a name, so we just call it Melo, and then rating. Let's give it a rating of 5. And what again does it need, if I can remember? Platform, yeah, platform. So platform, let's give it PC. Now let's send a request. Okay, now after sending the request, we see that we get all the games. Okay, now see a game of ID 6. So the ID is automatically generated, so it is just incremental, right? So we have 6, and then the name is Mailer, we have PC, and then we have the rating of 5, and then the image. Okay, so it is the only game with an image field. We can get all games, so get all games. If I do get all games, we see all the games, right? And then we can also just get the game by ID. So the ID is 6. So if we do this, 6, it returns mailer. If you do 2, it returns a game of ID 2. So we can just, return the game with the ID of 6. So yeah, that is it. It is working. Now back in VS Code, we can see that there is a new file right in here. So that is a file that the client uploaded. If you look at the dimension 1080 by 1080, just like we specified. So we can see it is inside public/images. I want us to do something else. I want us to add a folder inside images, inside the images path. So add folder, we'll call it thumbnail. Okay, thumbnails. So that is the folder. And then we are going to create the thumbnails, right? So if you try the request, okay, and then your request is hanging, is because you have not called the next function. So this function moves to the next middleware. Okay, so after process images, it is going to call next, and then it is going to move to the next middleware. When you are and the next middleware is the create game middleware. Okay, so just make sure you're calling this function at the end of process images. So we'll just say create thumbnail. So to create a thumbnails, we're just going to use the same thing here, but the only difference is we are going to reduce the quality, okay, by a lot. So let's say 50, and then the size. My preferred thumbnail size will be inside helper functions. So this is it. So you can come to get resize here. So the resize, right? It has lots of options, okay, that you can specify: cover, content, fill, and a whole lot, right? So you can just play around and then specify whatever dimensions or size or anything you want to specify. Anything that you want to specify, you can just find them over here and then you specify them. The same thing with JPEG. It also has like a couple of options that you can use, specify. All these things can be found in the documentation. But if I am, if I am just building a service that I just need to compress the image a little, resize them a little, and then create a thumbnail out of that, then this is the way I would do it. Okay. So in fact, there are so many powerful things that Sharp can do. So you can just read more about it in the documentations. So but in this case, the path, okay, the path is going to change for me. So let's say I have slash images. In this case, what we are going to do is we are going to do slash images, yeah, and then from slash images we are going to do thumbnails, 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 and then instead of file path, because file path has images on it, we can just do file name. So this is going to generate this is going to create a thumbnail, and then we are going to store it inside thumbnails. I think I've gotten the spelling correct. So if the spelling is correct, everything should work. All right. So let's just restart this quickly. And then I'm going to run it run it in Postman behind the scene. Okay, so obviously there's a bug. So I was expecting the image, the thumbnail image, this one, to go into the thumbnails folder. However, it is just inside the images directory. Yeah, it's just inside the images directory. So we just have to debug, which is a very simple one to do. If you look at the name here, we have thumbnails games. That is not what we want. We just wanted the name to be games cover image so and so, but we have thumbnails games. So it's because we are not putting a slash here. That's why. So I'm just going to do this save and then restart. Okay, now just running on server port 3000. I'm going to send a request in Postman behind the scene. Okay, I've sent the request. Now, if we open the thumbnails folder, we see a new file, right? So that is the thumbnail that we've created from the full image here. So you can also see that the size is 1080 by 1080, and then the size is also bigger than the thumbnail version. The thumbnail version is just 8.6 kilobytes, and then it is 336 by 188. So that is how you do it. So all you have to remember is you give it a smaller dimension. You also call the next function after you've executed a process images middleware in order for it to move to the next call stack. If not, your request will be hanging. Now, if we check the server.js, right? Now we said we wanted to serve this folder, the public folder. Okay. So in order to do that, what we need is we need the IP address or the host name or the domain name. Okay. In this case, because we are running it on port 3000 localhost, we can use localhost IP address, or we can also write localhost and then specify the port to be port 3000. and then we do a slash uploads. Okay, the moment we hit a slash uploads and then we specify the directory, we should be able to fetch the file in our web browser, okay, or any other app. Now let's just try that quickly. Okay, so here in the browser, we just have to enter localhost, right? Localhost, okay, localhost 3000, and then we specify the path. So I said uploads, right? And then we have to put the path of the image, the one that we got from the request. Okay, we just have to put that one here. So basically I copied that one from Postman. If you use that one and you press enter, now you can see that we are saving it from localhost 3000. We are saving the image from the uploads route, okay, in the images folder slash game cover image. Okay, now I'm not really sure if this is the image that have the thumbnails, but let's just see. If we do thumbnails, and then all right, so you see that it's working here. So if you provide the thumbnails endpoints, you'll be able to save the thumbnails as well, or you'll be able to get the thumbnails as well. If you remove the thumbnails, that will give you the full image. So yeah, that's how you do it. So remember, you don't use private, you don't use public. You remember that there was a folder called public, right? But when we are using express.static, and then we specify the path, and then we select the folder, okay, that folder becomes the root. So we don't use that one. Now everything that comes after is what we use. So for example, the folder called images, and then if you have, let's say, thumbnails, you can add the thumbnails folder, and then you save whatever file you want to save. Yeah, so that is it.